Behind the Line, episode 46. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. I appreciate your support. With the untimely death of Kobe Bryant, I've been thinking a lot this week about legacies. Legacies are a big thing in sports. When the whole situation with Anthony Davis in New Orleans was going on last year, we heard AD say several times that all he wants to do is win, to build his legacy. There's more to building a legacy than just winning. It's also about what you do off the court or off the field, how you impact other people's lives. This Sunday, Andy Reid's legacy is at stake. He's already one of the most accomplished head coaches in the history of the NFL. 6th all-time in wins. Coach of the Year in 2002. Only 7th coach in history to take multiple teams to the Super Bowl. 7 championship game appearances. 5 in Philadelphia, 2 in Kansas City. His list of accomplishments is a mile long. He's only missing one thing. The ring. Make no mistake about it. Andy Reid finishes out his career without that Super Bowl title. He is not getting into the Hall of Fame. In the Super Bowl era, only one coach has failed to win a championship and been voted into the Hall of Fame. That was Marv Levy in Buffalo, who took the Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s, lost all of them, couple in convincing fashion. Sunday could be Andy Reid's last chance to cement his legacy in the NFL. At 61 years old, he's on the back 9 of his coaching career. The NFL is a grind. Coaches work 90, 100 hours a week during the season. And it's not like it gets any easier in the offseason. The players get 3 months off, not the coaches. Soon as the Super Bowl ends Sunday, Andy Reid begins preparing for the draft. He knows time is running out. We see coaches and players as they get older. The losses become harder to take. You lose in the AFC Championship game as a 24-year-old quarterback or 45-year-old head coach. You know you got plenty of time to bounce back and avenge your loss or get back to where you were. Those losses in Philadelphia in the NFC Championship games, Andy Reid took them on the chin. We'll be back next season. The loss last season to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, Andy Reid still hasn't let it go. He was talking about it just the other day, how the Chiefs were 4 inches away from being in back-to-back Super Bowls. Dee Ford was offsides on a play that Kansas City intercepted Tom Brady that would have ended the game. Legacy matters. Don't think for a second that Andy Reid doesn't know his legacy is at stake on Sunday night. All the pressure is on the Chiefs. His players have stated all week that they want to win the ring for Andy Reid. There are 5 coaches ahead of him on the all-time wins list. Every one of them have won a Super Bowl. He doesn't want to leave the game of football as the only guy on the list without any fucking hardware. Sunday could be his last opportunity. Kansas City is already hard up against the cap for the upcoming 2020 season. They've still got to extend Patrick Mahomes, who's likely going to command $40 million a year. Owner Clark Hunt saying that they could wait another 12 to 15 months to extend Mahomes' contract. There's a reason for that. They're going to have to let go of some key players to make room for his extension. My point is, this is going to be a much different Kansas City team after this Super Bowl. We've seen what can happen when these great teams commit big money to their franchise quarterback. They go on the decline. Happened in Green Bay. Happened in Seattle. Both teams' franchise quarterbacks can get them into the playoffs. But neither have won Super Bowls since Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson got their big money deals. I mentioned 49ers defensive end Dee Ford a second ago. All week, the Chiefs have been supplying him with plenty of bulletin board material. Plenty of motivation to come out and dominate this offensive line on the NFL's biggest stage. Kansas City traded Dee Ford to the 49ers last offseason after his critical offsides penalty supposedly lost them the AFC Championship game. Did it hurt their chances? Yes. Did it lose them the game? No. Frank Clark was brought in to replace Dee Ford, a guy he says he's not too fond of. He had some other interesting comments. Quote, "I don't know nothing about him. I don't know the school he went to. I just know he had lined up offside, and anybody who lined up offside at a time like that, I feel like that's a dumb penalty at the end of the day. I'm sure he feels the same way. Personally, I've lined up offside before, but not in that type of situation. In any situation, that's just something that shouldn't happen." End quote. Damn it at the disrespect being shown to one of the best edge rushers in the league. I like trash talk, but we've seen time and time again how statements like this come back to bite someone in the ass. I mean, we saw it just last year. Rams receiver Brandon Cooks was talking shit about how they were bringing a title back to Los Angeles. Told Patriots safety Patrick Chung, "Let's get straight." They got straight all right. Got a flight straight from Atlanta back to LA after the Rams scored 3 fucking points in the Super Bowl. New England is notorious for not giving teams bulletin board material. But back in their undefeated season, 2007-2008, before playing the Giants in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady was asked about Giants receiver Plaxico Burress' comments that the Patriots wouldn't score 17 points in the Super Bowl against the Giants' defense. Now, why a fucking receiver is trash talking about a facet of the game he has no control over, I don't know. Apparently, neither did Tom Brady, because he found the comments amusing, laughed his ass off. And then Brady and the offense went out, only scored 14 points, and lost. So I don't understand why Frank Clark thought it was necessary, or even that it was his place, to call out one of the best defensive ends in the game. The pressure's already on the shoulders of the Chiefs. San Francisco's playing with house money. No one expected them to be here at the beginning of the season. This is going to be a tough game for Kansas City to win. The 49ers can beat you in different ways. Run, pass, defensively. Doesn't matter. The Chiefs have to have Patrick Mahomes play a perfect game if they're going to beat the 49ers. The last thing he needs is extra motivation from Dee Ford to try to plant his ass on every play. I don't mind trash talk, but you got to be able to back it up. Richard Sherman wants to talk trash? Go ahead. He's a winner. But Frank Clark? Who the fuck is Frank Clark? What has he ever won? I would be willing to bet that most of you have never heard of him. He's been talking shit the entire postseason. After the AFC Championship win against the Titans, he said the Chiefs were the greatest defense in the world. I bet the 49ers will have something to say about that on Sunday. Has Frank Clark never committed a penalty? Never roughed the passer? Jumped all sides? Karma has a strange way of playing these things out. I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Clark commits a game-changing penalty Sunday night. All right, switching lanes for a minute, I want to talk about Zion Williamson. If this guy can stay healthy, he will be on the level of LeBron James, or even possibly exceed it. He's that special of a player. The NBA's never seen a guy like this, 6'6", 6'7", 285 pounds, that has the quickness of a guard. I've watched all 4 games that Zion's played in so far. And I know it's a small sample size. But he's doing things that we aren't seeing anyone else do in the NBA. He's missed 18 total shots in 4 games. Russell Westbrook will miss 18 shots in 1 fucking game. Anyway, 8 times Zion has got his own rebound off his own missed shot. The other night against the Celtics, on 1 possession, he rebounded his own shot, missed 2 more times, rebounded both times. He's so strong, he's literally bullying guys off the glass and in the post. Opposing players are bouncing off of him. He's a runaway freight train driving the lane. He's averaging 3 putbacks a game, trailing only Hassan Whiteside and Andre Drummond. But KC, you just said he's doing something no one else is doing. 2 guys are ahead of him. Yeah, but Zion's playing limited minutes. They're averaging 6, 8, 10 minutes more a game than he is right now. The other night in Cleveland was the first game where he played 30 or more minutes. His plus minus is 16.1, and he's only going to get better. But the reason I say he could exceed LeBron James isn't just because of his level of play on the court. I mean, he's a superstar talent. There's no doubt about it. But I say this because Zion Williamson is the first player since LeBron in 2003 that came into the NBA already having crossed over into the mainstream. Actually, Zion might have been more famous entering the NBA than LeBron was coming out of high school. I'm talking about branding and popularity here. Zion has the potential to surpass LeBron in both. His expectations have been high, but so far he's exceeded them. He's making the usual rookie mistakes, bad passes, bad turnovers, ball handling is an issue at times. Those mistakes can be fixed, but he's got one hole in his game that could be a major problem. His free throw shooting. He's shooting 35% from the line. Now, he's only attempted 17 free throws. And New Orleans assistant Fred Vinson has shown that he can work wonders in improving a player's shooting form. Just look what he's done with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram this season. But this could be a real problem going down the stretch of this season if Zion doesn't improve from the free throw line. For starters, the Pelicans as a team struggle from the free throw line. So having another player on the court that struggles isn't ideal. But New Orleans is gunning for that 8th playoff spot in the Western Conference. Eventually, teams are going to begin to intentionally foul Zion to put him on the line, especially when you're playing teams like Memphis, San Antonio, who are also battling for that final playoff spot. If Zion Williamson can't make his free throws, Alvin Gentry can't keep him on the fucking floor. Without him on the floor, the Pelicans are a different team. They built a 20-point lead the other night against the Celtics. Zion sat for the majority of the third quarter. Pelicans defense struggled, let Boston back in the game. He comes back in the game in the fourth quarter, scores the final 8 points, puts Boston away. I really believe if he can stay healthy, that Zion has the potential to pass LeBron James. I hope he does it in New Orleans. I do have concerns that he will eventually leave. I know he's saying that he loves the city now, and he's nice, and he's all humble, kind of taking a backseat to the veterans on this team. But that will change soon. Anthony Davis was a beacon of humility his first year or two in New Orleans. Look how that ended up turning out. And with the trade deadline approaching, I've been seeing a lot of Pelican fans on Twitter wanting to trade Drew Holiday. Should not happen. And it's not because he gives you 20 points, 6 assists every night. It's not because he can defend just about every position on the court. It's not because he's one of the best two-way guards in the league. It's not because he's the longest tenured player in New Orleans. The reason trading Drew Holiday would be a mistake is because he's the voice of this team. The Pelicans are young. Zion Williamson's not ready to be a leader. He's another 2-3 years away from being ready to be the voice in this locker room. Notice that I did not say face of the franchise. He's already the face of the franchise, working his way on eventually becoming the face of the NBA. Now, does New Orleans need a player that can stretch the floor? Yes, but that's something that they can address in the offseason. They're not winning a title this year anyway. But they can't replace the intangibles that Drew Holiday brings to this team. Both he and J.J. Redick right now are the most important voices in that locker room. All right, moving on. You ever heard the saying, loose lips sink ships? In just about every, call it negative situation, the primary cause is someone not knowing when to keep their mouth shut. Take narcotics cases, for instance. 90% of them begin with an informant. Political situations, like what's going on in Washington right now, started with a whistleblower, somebody running their mouth. The NBA is on a decline for the first time in a decade. And you can point to a myriad of reasons. Stars are injured, Golden State is irrelevant, LeBron is aging, pick your poison. But the negative press began and the decline began before the season even started. Remember a few years ago when Colin Kaepernick caused a national media storm by kneeling for the national anthem? Roger Goodell and the league were slow to respond. NFL ratings tanked. The country was pissed off. They voted with their remotes not to watch the NFL. It took them a couple of years to bounce back. And football is the most popular sport in America by a long shot. Similar occurrence happened in October in the NBA. Rockets general manager Daryl Morey tweeted out support for the protesters in Hong Kong, who at the time were protesting against the Chinese government for their freedom. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver didn't exactly back Daryl Morey. He took a position in support of the Chinese government. The American public was pissed off. Nothing gets people in this country more riled up than freedom. And I believe that has a lot to do with the declining NBA ratings right now. The problem is, Adam Silver created a lose-lose situation for himself in the league. Because the Chinese government wasn't happy with Daryl Morey's tweet or Silver's response, they pulled all support and sponsorships from the preseason games played over in China. And they haven't given their support back to the NBA yet. And now, the effects of that lack of support from the Chinese government are starting to surface. It's being reported that the NBA has lost between $150 and $200 million in revenue because of China pulling out. As a result, it's going to have a direct impact on the salary cap structure. Salary cap projections for next season are decreasing by $3 million per team. The Colin Kaepernick situation taught everyone in sports a lesson that apparently the NBA failed to learn. Sports and politics don't mix. I actually agree with Daryl Morey's tweet. The treatment of the Chinese population by their government is abhorrent. Name places people want to live. China is near the bottom of the list. The government controls your life from cradle to grave, tells you how many children you can have, where you go to school, what you'll do for a living. Mandatory to join the military as a young adult. Zero freedom. Whether you agree with Morey's tweet or not, the financial impact it's had on the NBA is enormous. And the secondary impact is the declining ratings because it put Adam Silver in a position to take a position. And no matter which side he chose, he was going to lose. There was no pleasing both ends of the spectrum. And instead, he just ended up pissing off everyone. The NBA will bounce back. They have too many young stars. This will eventually pass over. Golden State will be back next season. Zion Williamson is emerging as a superstar. Ja Morant's putting Memphis back on the map. Trae Young is balling out in Atlanta. KD will be back next year. They're in great shape. And the league should be balanced next year. But they're going to continue to take their lumps this season. The ratings, I don't think, are going to bounce back this year. And I don't see it improving even in the playoffs. The two best teams in the league are in Los Angeles, one city. I think this will go down as a disastrous season in the NBA in terms of financials and ratings. All right, that's all for today. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. Leave a comment in the section below. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. I'll be back tomorrow morning with my bet for the Super Bowl. See you then.